Asbestos is a mineral that is made of easily separated fibers. The fibers are lightweight, flexible, and can be woven into cloth. It is also an effective insulator against sound, electricity, and heat, and is both chemically inert and entirely fireproof. Asbestos has been used for centuries, since before the time of the ancient Greeks and Romans. In the United States, asbestos was mined starting in the early 1900s, and its use gradually increased up until 1940s. During the 1940s, and especially during World War II and the days after, up until the early 1970s, the United States used vast amounts of asbestos in over 3,000 different products. Among the largest consumers of asbestos insulation were shipyards. Asbestos insulation covered all the wiring aboard ships, and it insulated boiler rooms and pipe fittings. As a result, men and women who worked on and around ships were exposed to enormous amounts of asbestos on a regular basis. The story of a couple from Virginia is representative of the fate of many sailors, the deckhands, and their families. The gentleman in question was in the Navy and sailed on a number of different vessels during the Korean War, and later served as a shipyard worker. He remembered clouds of asbestos filling his ship every time they fired the big guns. He remembered helping to remove and replace asbestos insulation when they were in port, and the asbestos dust that filled the air during those periods. In 1985, the gentleman was diagnosed with mesothelioma. He was lucky. They caught the cancer early and were able to surgically remove the tumor along with part of his lung, and he survived. But the years of asbestos exposure weren't limited to this gentleman. Whenever he was in port in Virginia, he would go home to be with his wife. The asbestos clouds that he breathed all day also settled on his clothing. When his wife did the laundry, the asbestos came off his clothes and she inhaled it. 15 years after the gentleman survived his bout with mesothelioma, his wife was diagnosed with mesothelioma. She died 1 month after the diagnosis. The danger of asbestos had been known almost as long as it has been used. The Greeks noted that slaves who worked with asbestos the most died young and had breathing problems. Studies done in the United States and in England in the early 1900s confirmed that asbestos was dangerous and caused respiratory problems. As early as the 1930s, medical journals contained articles about the link between asbestos and cancer. Even with all this information about the dangers of asbestos, however, it wasn't until the 1970s that the United States government started taking steps to reduce the amount of asbestos people were exposed to. Even today, asbestos is not banned in the United States, and people are still being occupationally exposed, although not in the numbers of early years. Malignant mesothelioma is the most dangerous of the diseases caused by asbestos. It is a cancer of the membrane that surrounds the lungs and lines the chest cavity. It has a latency period of 30 years or more before asbestos exposure leads to the development of the disease. The first signs of mesothelioma is difficulty in catching one's breath after exercise. A lot of people don't recognize this as a medical condition and don't seek medical care until the symptoms include an inability to breathe, even while at rest, and increasingly severe chest pain. If mesothelioma is caught in its early stages, surgical removal of the tumor and surrounding tissue may prevent the condition from recurring. If the cancer has already metastasized by the time of discovery, however, surgery is less effective. At that point, doctors rely on a combination of chemotherapy and radiation treatments to try to slow the growth of the cancer. Although treatments are getting better, there is still no cure for mesothelioma. Thank you for watching. This video was produced by Asbestos.Net, a leading resource on all aspects of asbestos and mesothelioma. Our priority is to inform victims about the devastating effects of asbestos exposure, mesothelioma, asbestos cancer, asbestosis, and other asbestos-related diseases, and to advise them with a wealth of information. Individuals whose lives have been touched by mesothelioma have numerous questions and concerns. Their caregivers and family members also need accurate, reliable information. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with mesothelioma or asbestos cancer and need more information, we invite you to visit and explore the thousands of pages of oncologist-reviewed material on Asbestos.net,
to call our convenient toll-free number shown below and speak with a mesothelioma specialist, or to use the simple contact form found at Asbestos.Net to request a free copy of our informative books, custom inserts, and DVD. Asbestos.Net, information and help for patients and families.